Adapted from archaic translation by W.H.D. Rouse. Jataka number 157. Guna Jataka. The strong will always have their way, etc. This was told by the master while at Jetavana monastery, how elder monk Ananda received a present of 1,000 robes. The elder monk had been preaching to the ladies of the king of Kosala's palace as described above in the Mahasara birth. As he preached there in the manner described, 1,000 robes, worth each 1,000 pieces of money, were brought to the king. Of these the king gave 500 to as many of his queens. The ladies put these aside and made him a present to our elder monk, and then the next day in their old ones went to the palace where the king took breakfast. The king remarked, "I gave you dresses worth 1,000 pieces each. Why are you not wearing them?" "My lord," said they, "we have given him to the elder monk." "Has elder monk Ananda got him all?" he asked. They said, "Yes, he had." "The Supreme Buddha," said he, "allows only 3 robes. Ananda is doing a little trade in cloth, I suppose." He was angry with the elder monk, and after breakfast, visited him in his cell, and after greeting, sat down, with these words. "I ask, Sir, do my ladies learn or listen to your preaching?" "Yes, sire. They learn what they should, and what they should hear, they hear." "Oh, indeed. Do they only listen, or do they make you presents of upper garments or undergarments?" "Today, sire, they have given me 500 robes worth 1,000 pieces each." "And you accepted them, sir?" "Yes, sire, I did." "Why, sir, didn't the master make some rule about 3 robes?" "True, sire, for every brother 3 robes is the rule, speaking of what he uses for himself. But no one is forbidden to accept what is offered. And that is why I took them, to give them to brothers whose robes are worn out. But when these brothers get them from you, what do they do with their old ones?" "Make them into a cloak." "And what about the old cloak?" "That they turn into a shirt." "And the old shirt?" "That serves for a bedsheet." "The old bedsheet becomes a mat." "The old mat, a towel." "And what about the old towel?" "Sire, it is not permitted to waste the gifts of the faithful. So they chop up the old towel into bits, and mix the bits with clay, which they use for mortar in building their houses. A gift, sir, should not be destroyed, not even a towel." "Well, Sir King, we destroy no gifts, but all are used somehow." This conversation pleased the king so much, that he sent for the other 500 dresses which remained, and gave them to the elder monk. Then, after receiving his thanks, he greeted the elder monk in a sincere manner, and went his way. The elder monk gave the first 500 robes to brothers whose robes were worn out. But the number of his fellow elder monks was just 500. One of these, a young brother, was very useful to the elder monk, sweeping out his cell, serving him with food and drink, giving him toothbrush and water for cleansing his mouth, looking after the bathroom, living rooms, and sleeping rooms, and doing all that was needed for hand, foot, or back. To him, as his by right for all his great service, the elder monk gave all the 500 robes which he had received afterwards. The young brother in his turn distributed him among his fellow students. These all cut him up, dyed then yellow as a kanakara flower. Then dressed in that they waited upon the master, greeted him, and sat down on one side. "Sir," they asked, "is it possible for a holy disciple who has entered on the first path to be a respecter of persons in his gifts?" "No, brothers," it is not possible for holy disciples to be respecters of persons in their gifts. Sir, our spiritual teacher, the treasurer of the faith, gave 500 robes, each worth 1,000 pieces, to a young brother. And he has divided him amongst us. Brothers, in giving these Ananda was no respecter of persons. That young fellow was a very useful servant. So he made the present to his own attendant for service, sake, for goodness' sake, and by right, thinking that one good turn deserves another, and with a wish to do what gratitude demands. In former days, as now, wise men acted the told principle, a story one good the olden deserves another. And then, at their request, he told them a story of the olden time. Once upon a time, while Brahmadatta was king of Benares, the Bodhisattva was a lion living in a cave on the hills. One day he came out from his lair and looked towards the mountain foot. Now all round the foot of that mountain stretched a great piece of water. Upon some ground that ease out of this was a quantity of soft green grass, growing on the thick mud, and over this mud ran rabbits and deer and such light creatures, eating of the grass. On that day, as usual, there was a deer eating grass upon it. "I'll have that deer," thought the lion, and with a lion's leap he sprang from the hillside towards it. But the deer, frightened to death, ran away belling. The lion could not stop his onset. Down on the mud he fell, and sank in, so that he could not get out. And there he remained 7 days, his feet fixed like 4 posts, with not a morsel to eat. Then a jackal, hunting for food, was by chance to see him, and set off running in high terror. But the lion called out to him, "I say, jackal, don't run. Here am I, caught fast in the mud. Please save me." Up came the jackal. "I could pull you out," says he, "but I much fear that once out you might eat me." "Fear nothing. I won't eat you," says the lion. "On the contrary, I'll do you great service. Only get me out somehow." The jackal, accepting this promise, worked away the mud around his 4 feet, and the holes in which his 4 feet were fixed he dug further towards the water. Then the water ran in, and made the mud soft. Then he got underneath the lion, saying, "Now, sir," one great effort, making a loud noise and striking the lion's belly with his head. The lion strained every nerve, and scrambled out of the mud. He stood on dry land. After a moment's rest, he plunged in the lake, and washed and scoured the mud from him. Then he killed a buffalo, and with his fangs tore up its flesh, of which he proposed some to the jackal, saying, "Eat, comrade." And himself after the jackal had done did eat too. After this, the jackal took a piece in his mouth. "What's that for?" the lion asked. "For your humble servant my mate, who awaits me at home." "All right," says the lion, taking a bit for his own mate. "Come, comrade," says he again, "let us stay for some time on the mountain top, and then go to the lady's house." So there they went, and the lion fed the she-jackal. And after they were both satisfied, said he, "Now I am going to take care of you." So he conducted him to the place where he lived, and settled them in a cave near to the entrance of his own. Ever after that, he and the jackal used to go hunting together, leaving their mates behind. All kinds of creatures they would kill, and eat to their heart's content, and then bring back some for the 2 others. And as time went on, the she-jackal and the lioness had each 2 cubs, and they all lived happily together. One day, a sudden thought struck the lioness. "My lion seems very fond of the jackal and his mate and young ones. What if there be something wrong between them? That must be the cause why he is so fond of them, I suppose. Well, I will plague her and frighten her, and get her away from this place." So when the lion and the jackal were away on the hunt, she plagued and terrified the jackal's mate, asking her why she stayed there, why she did not run away. And her cubs frightened the young jackals after the same fashion. The she-jackal told her mate what had been said. "It is clear," said she, "that the lion must have dropped a hint about us. We have been here a long time. And now he will be the death of us. Let us go back to the place where we lived before." On hearing this, the jackal approached the lion, with these words: "Master, we have been here a long time. Those who stay too long outstay their welcome. While we are away, your lioness scolds and terrifies no mate, by asking why she stays, and telling her to be gone. Your young ones do the same to mine. If anyone does not like a neighbor, he should just ask him to go, and send him about his business. What is the use of all this tormenting?" So saying, he repeated the first stanza. The strong will always have their way. It is their nature so to do. Your mate roars loud. And now I say I fear what once I trusted to. The lion listened. Then turning to his lioness, "Wife," said he, "you remember how once I was out hunting for a week, and then brought back this jackal and his mate with me?" "Yes, I remember." "Well, do you know why I stayed away all that week?" "No, sir. My wife, in trying to catch a deer, I made a mistake, and stuck fast in the mud. There I stayed, for I could not get out, a whole week without food. My life was saved by this jackal. This my friend saved my life. A friend in need is a friend indeed, be he great or small. Never again must you put a slight upon my comrade, or his wife, or his family." And then the lion repeated the second stanza. A friend who plays a friendly part, however small and weak he be. He is my kinsman and my flesh and blood, a friend and comrade he. Despise him not, my sharp-fanged mate. This jackal saved no life for me. The lioness, when she heard this tale, made her peace with the jackal's mate, and ever after lived at amity with her and her young ones. And the young of the two pairs played together in their early days. And when the parents died, they did not break the bond of friendship, but lived happily together as the old ones had lived before them. Indeed, the friendship remained unbroken through 7 generations. When the master had ended this discourse, he explained the truths and identified the birth. Opening parenthesis. At the end of the truths some entered on the first path, some on the second, some on the third, and some the fourth. Closing parenthesis. Ananda was the jackal in those days, and the lion was I myself. Source. Adapted from archaic translation by W.H.D. Rhys. Jataka number 158. Suhanu Jataka. Birds of a feather, etc. This story the master told while at Jetavana monastery, about 2 hot-tempered brothers. It happened that there were 2 brothers, passionate, cruel, and violent, one living at Jetavana monastery and one in the country. Once the country brother came to Jetavana monastery on some job or other. The novices and young brothers knew the passionate nature of this man, so they led him to the cell of the other, all agog to see them quarrel. No sooner did they spy one another, those 2 hot-tempered men, than they ran into each other's arms, stroking and caressing hands, and feet, and back. The brothers talked about it in the Hall of Truth. Friend, these passionate brothers are cross, cruel, angry to everybody else, but with each other they are the best of friends, cordial and sympathetic. The master came in, asking what they sat there talking about. They told him. Said he, "This, brothers, is not the only time that these men, who are cross, cruel, and angry to all else, have shown themselves cordial, and friendly, and sympathetic to each other. It happened just so in olden days." And so saying, he told an old world tale. Once upon a time when Brahmadatta was king of Benares, the Bodhisattva was his Dharul, a courtier who advised him on things worldly and things spiritual. Now this king was of a somewhat greedy nature. And he had a brute of a horse, named Mahasona, or Big Chestnut. Some horse dealers from the north country brought down 500 horses. And word was sent to the king that these horses had arrived. Now in past the Bodhisattva had always asked the dealers to fix their own price, and then paid it in full. But now the king, being displeased with him, summoned another of his court, to whom he said, "Friend, make the men name their price. Then let loose Big Chestnut so that he goes amongst them. Make him bite them, and when they are weak and wounded get the men to reduce their price." "Certainly," said the man. And so he did. The dealers in great dudgeon told the Bodhisattva what this horse had done. "Have you not such another brute in your own city?" asked the Bodhisattva. "Yes," they said, "there was one named Suhanu, strong jaw, and a fierce and savage brute he was." "Bring him with you the next time you come," the Bodhisattva said. And this they promised to do. So the next time they came, this brute came with them. The king, on hearing how the horse dealers had arrived, opened his window to look at the horses, and caused Chestnut to be let loose. Then as the dealers saw Chestnut coming, they let Strong Jaw loose. No sooner had the two met, than they stood still licking each other all over. The king asked the Bodhisattva how it was. "Friend," said he, "when these two rogue horses come across others, they are fierce, wild, and savage, they bite them, and make them ill. But with each other, there they stand, licking one another all over the body. What's the reason of this?" "The reason is," said the Bodhisattva, "that they are not dissimilar, but like in nature and character." And he repeated this couple of verses. "Birds of a feather flock together. Chestnut and Strong Jaw both agree. In scope and aim both are the same, there is no difference I can see. Both savage are, and vicious both. Both always bite their tether. So sin with sin, and vice with vice, must even agree together." Then the Bodhisattva went on to warn the king against excessive desire to possess, and the spoiling of other men's goods. And fixing the value, he made him pay the proper price. The dealers received the due value, and went away well satisfied. And the king, abiding by the Bodhisattva's teachings, at last passed away to fare according to his deeds. When the master had ended this discourse, he identified the birth. The bad brothers were then these two horses, Ananda was the king, and I was the wise adviser.